Can I ask how far from being a peaceful, democratic and inclusive nation you are?
We are not inclusive. The political process is not inclusive. This is one of the pitfalls that we are in. And I feel that this non-inclusivity of the political process have contributed to forming a political landscape which is hospitable to the extreme and extremists. And this is what's happening, unfortunately.
So therefore, how important is it that Iraq's Sunni population feel their voices are being heard?
To be very honest, I don't think it's a problem between Shias and Sunnis. I don't believe this. It's in the media. It is also amongst the politicians, not amongst the people. If you take at random any tribe in Iraq, you'll see part of it are part of the tribe is Shia and part of the tribe is Sunni, and they don't fight with each other. Likewise, there are millions of Sunni men married to Shia women and vice versa. So there is no, the problem between Shias and Sunnis is only in the minds of the leading people and the political groups, some of them of course, who are, frankly speaking, supported by some regional powers to further the sectarian divide in the country. And of course, this is supplemented by the efforts of the extremists and terrorists by trying to develop further the rift between the Sunnis and the Shias by the targeted bombardment of sometimes Shia areas and sometimes Sunni areas.
Well, that is the key question. How can we persuade the key players in this region to accept that peace is a better option to war?
It needs a lot of work. It needs a lot of trust building between the various factions. It needs, frankly speaking, to start in Iraq and in Syria, but Iraq is easier than Syria now. Syria is getting too complex. And Iraq have the capacity and capability to influence the region also, once it is really moving on the right path. So I believe there should be a focus on Iraq. I believe that Iraq is the only country that neighbors two Islamic nations, Iran and Turkey, and have the Arab depth on the other hand. And this is a unique geopolitical situation where Iraq could play really a significant role. But unfortunately, when the occupation happened in Iraq, everything was dismantled. The state was dismantled. And that's why a very severe vacuum was created. And this vacuum led the people either to fall into their area or their tribe or their sect or whatever for protection. And unfortunately, this encouraged some regional powers to interfere, either to protect themselves or to have power what to say for the future of the country. Especially Iran did very much damage to the situation in Iraq by gross and naked interferences. That's why I believe we need to focus on the issue of Iraq. We need to create also an Arab understanding that they should not leave Iraq on the side and consider it as a wasted country and under a failed state and under the control of Iran. This is the notion. I meet some leaders always, Arab leaders and Islamic leaders. And all of them, they say that Iraq is a finished case, it's a dead case. I don't think this is the case. The Iraqi people are now witnessing an awakening. I noticed the demonstrations in the Shia areas, and millions of people during the last year and until now. They are anti-sectarian, their slogans, anti-sectarian, anti-politicizing religion, for a civic state, and for punishing the corrupt. These are what I call an awakening, to the extent that they forced the religious marja'iyya and Najaf to declare the same points. in a statement. For this to me is really a kind of a reaction, a positive reaction by the Iraqi people towards what have been dividing them or attempting to divide them. And it is very self-explained that these demonstrations, I'm not talking about 100 or 1,000, about millions of people who went to the streets and demanded reforms based on getting out and away of sectarianism and to have a civic state for the country.
Can we end then, hopefully, on a message of hope? If we sit here at the 13th Manama Dialogue, how much closer to a peaceful country will Iraq be?
I really cannot say when and how, but I would say that the good signs are there. The people or the countries who have been trying to muddy the waters are fatigued by their interventions in Iraq and elsewhere. I think the Iraqis have realized that this is the time for them to rise peacefully and to achieve the harmony in the country. And people now are realizing that there is nothing called Sunni and Shia. It's a country for all Iraqis. Unfortunately, some Shia blocs, religious blocs who are pro-Iranians, are trying to push the agenda of sectarianism. Equally, the Daesh, ISIS, and other extreme forces are doing the same from the opposite direction. That's why the Iraq needs now a reasonable, moderate voice with an understanding of the region and of the international community to help it to go through this critical phase.
Dr. Allawi, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thanks.